All right, the Golden State Warriors beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 127-116. Steph Curry with 36.7 assists. Jonathan Kuminga added 20. Draymond, 8 points, 11 assists, and 4 rebounds. And DeAnthony Melton, 19 points, 5 from 8 from 3. And for the Thunder, SGA added 24. Jalen Williams had 20. Lou Dort had 16. And as we mentioned before, Chet Holmgren leaves early, 5 minutes into the game with an injury. In my mind, a statement game, as much as a statement as you can make with Chet Holmgren getting injured. Let's get that off the bat. Just give some grace to the Thunder. They didn't have Chet for pretty much 98% of this game. Although I do think there are a lot of things you can take from this game, positives from the Warriors, and some, I wouldn't say concerns, but definitely things that I'm going to have in mind when I'm thinking about the playoffs for the OKC Thunder going forward. But the Warriors, again, impressive on the road. They beat the Celtics on this road trip. They beat the Thunder on this road trip. Those are two teams that we had number 1 and 2 in our power rankings, Kwab. So definitely a successful trip. These guys are for real. I mean, that's what I took from this game. Just a quick rundown, some differences that I saw between the Thunder and the Warriors, and I want to get your opinion on this. This is being incredibly reductive, but just the half-court offenses, right? The Thunder's half-court offense for me is just like, in some way, shape, or form, we're going to get a pick and roll with SGA, and then we're going to try to get an action with somebody cutting to the hoop, or SGA with a mismatch going into the paint, and then it's like, we're going to create chaos, drive and kick, and you're going to have to rotate, and you're going to have to rotate, and if you can't rotate, we're going to kill you. The problem is, the Warriors are pretty good at guarding the pick and roll, and the Warriors are pretty good at rotating, and I think going forward, if I'm Mark Dagnall, I'm going to have to think of some type of wrinkle to put into this offense to keep teams like the Warriors and good defensive teams that you're going to see in the Western Conference playoffs on their toes, because I don't think this can just be your offense in the playoffs. You're going to need some wrinkles. You're going to need some extra sets. They started doing so later on, running curls, down screens, but I still think there needs to be a little more. And on the opposite end with the Warriors, they were in trouble in the first quarter because they were just taking lazy threes. Then Kuminga comes in the game and he kind of flips it on its head and he starts going to the basket and things start changing and there's more ball movement. The Thunder try to go zone. You can't go zone against Steph Curry. I don't know why you even try to do that. It's like giving him an open three every time. The difference between the Warriors and Thunder for me, this game particularly, was just the off-ball movement and the motion in their offense that just makes them a little more unpredictable on that side of the ball. So I don't want to get too I don't want to be too hyperbolic here because it's just a regular season game in November, and the Thunder were missing Chet, and they are missing Isaiah Hartenstein, who they'll have later on in the season. But a very impressive road win for the Warriors, ending their road trip. And honestly, it's one that I wouldn't say is eye-opening, but it's something where I think if you're a Thunder fan, going forward, you want to see how they implement their offense, their half-court offense, and what kind of wrinkles they do. Kwab, sorry, I just went all a little bit of rant.
No. No. We love the long rants, especially from Josh. And if you're a listener, you should too. And if you're a watcher, you should too, because there's a lot of information that's dropped. I think from watching the game, I'll say this: the one thing you said before was chaos. I think that first quarter felt very chaotic to watch in the sense that it felt like the Thunder, before Chet got hurt, even after he got hurt, it felt like they were playing with like a 15-second shot clock. It was like get a stop, push the ball, maybe one or two passes, get a shot up, and it was working. I know they typically like to play 5 out, and they're able to do that with Chet. And losing Chet, you kind of see how like small the team is. Like
they were small, man. They were playing small ball the rest of the way.
The whole game.
Felt like,
because it's like there's no, and this was something that everybody talked about last year when it was like, oh, they need to just shore up get a big just to shore up the bench or something. And I think they semi-addressed that last year with like Bismack, and then this year with Isaiah, but Isaiah is hurt also. But that first quarter, like I was sitting there watching, and the shots, it was just back and forth. Shots were going up, and it was like you said, it to a certain degree it felt chaotic, but it was like it's controlled chaos because that's how the Thunder are comfortable playing with. To me, it felt like the only time the ball really slowed down early on was when the ball was in Shai's hands, and he would like kind of assess the floor and take his time on his drives and make a move and drive and kick, and it was working out for them. But then Golden State made their run, And we've been saying this in some of our other episodes when we did our rankings or when we did other previews, how deep Golden State is as a team. To me, it felt like the run they made when they were up by like, what was it? I think 20 at a certain point was because when the bench players came in. That bench lineup of like, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, Kuminga now, who's moved to the bench, with Steph. It was like
Moody and Pods were out there.
Yes, yeah. Moody and Pods. Thank you. I was drawing a blank. Thank you. With Moody, that team alone could win a lot of games by itself.
I mean, they did really. Like when Steph was hurt, they beat the Pelicans twice.
Yep.
They went on the road. They had some pretty impressive victories. So yeah.
Yeah. So like that like you just said, that feels like a legitimate. I know how to speak. That feels like a legitimate squad you bringing off the bench. Now, the one thing I was gonna ask you before the Thunder even made a comeback, when the Thunder brought in like that young lineup and they kind of also again brought chaos and kind of pressured, and Casey Wallace hit a couple of tough threes to bring them back. I was going to ask you before was that, does this feel like the Warriors have a championship team?
Yeah.
Yeah?
See? I'm not going to lie, man. What the hell's going on?
See, I was watching. I was just like, oh, did they do it again?
I mean, listen, I wouldn't make them the favorite at all. Like, I'm not saying there, but I do think, when the playoffs come around, we have tiers, right? Like contenders, fringe contenders and whatnot. And I think obviously it's early. So we can't like make crazy proclamations yet. And I do think they need some help like on the boards. I do think that they need maybe an extra creator as well. Somebody you can just give the ball to and create. Someone commented on one of our videos that they just need Jordan Poole, which I found pretty funny.
That's
But
hilarious.
like in a way, it's like that's actually not a bad like suggestion, I guess. Maybe not specifically him, but someone like him who can get their own shot and create for others. So I do think they are a player away, but that player can always come at the trade deadline, and they are deep, so they can, make that move. They probably have pieces they want to give away or can give away. So for me, it's like from just based on what the Nuggets have been, like the T-Wolves lost to the Heat today, and they've been kind of up and down, and the Suns got off to a good start, but KD's now hurt, and the Mavs are playing okay,
up
like
and down, yeah.
And everyone in the East outside of the Cavs and Celtics are trash right now. Yeah, why not? I mean, why not? Obviously, it's early. I always say like take things 10 games at a time before you start making like judgments on a team. But we're there now, and I think my first judgment on the Warriors is this team is really freaking good. Are they my favorites to win the championship? No, I wouldn't go that far, but they are going to be in the playoffs. If I'm comfortable saying that now, and if everyone stays healthy, obviously. And yeah, man, I think that they're at least in the conversation of like, should we be taking this team seriously as a championship contender? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, because when it comes down to it, I would like we've talked about this in the past. Steph is hard to beat in general. Just in a 7-game series, like he's hard to beat. And coming into the season, I don't think many people kind of viewed them as like, okay, this might be like a top playoff team or could maybe come out the West. But when you watch them play and you watch how deep they are and then how like I was watching the game tonight and it was like Slow-Mo's coming off the bench and he's just filling in certain areas. Like they were running a very high pick and roll with Steph and Kyle Anderson, and he got in the middle and he had the floater and the pass. I'm like, okay, that just feels unfair. Like,
and honestly, and you're going zone against the Warriors when you can just put Draymond Green and Kyle Anderson in the middle of that zone and have them. They're two of the better passing big or forwards that we have in the league. So like they definitely have different ways to beat offenses. I do think, like I said, they probably need another shot creator, but yeah, man, it's like they are deep. They're very deep for sure.
And I'm like in a 7-game series, you know what you might it might get a little scary, but what do you have any concerns when it comes to the Thunder, especially like when you watch them, like a night like this where Chet goes down and then they kind of were struggling until they kind of made that comeback in the fourth.
Yeah, my concern is obviously Chet's health. iHeart's health as well. And then what I said to kick off this reaction video was just basically like, I kind of want to see more wrinkles in the offense. I don't want to see just a pick and roll five out and then, SGA go into the hole, although, he can be unstoppable at times. I'm not saying it's not going to work every time, but I just feel like there needs to be other things implemented. And the Warriors, the way they were guarding the pick and roll, and the Warriors, by the way, I think they're second best defensive team in the league out behind the Thunder. So, like, this is a good defensive team. It's not like this is like, an average basketball team on the defensive end. But the Warriors were doing a good job, like, hedging and stopping the roll man from getting in the paint to create chaos. The Thunder, once they get into the paint, that's where they create the chaos because they'll have people crashing for a dunk or they'll have, they'll be spotting up for three. It's just hard. It's just hard once they get into the paint. And the Warriors did a fantastic job. But I kind of just want to see a little more movement on offense. What that looks like, I don't know. I'm not a basketball coach. But there are different ways. They have the shooters. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of players who can, take you off the dribble and create for their own. Yeah. So for me, I'm not worried. I'm not like, oh my God, like we're Fugazi, but I'm also just kind of like, okay, this is the first time in the season where I can take a step back as a Thunder fan and just be like, okay, this is what we need to work on. Let's see what happens from here. Nothing crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Agree with that. On the positive side, though, I'll say that the Thunder are ridiculous. Also, they're also very deep. Some of these guards and forwards they bring off the bench that Sam Presti, you're a demon. I just want to just
hate you.
And some of these realizing every day I feel like I see a tweet or something about a team that's struggling and somebody be like, oh, do you know who has your draft pick? And
yeah. I saw that. Who was struggling? Yeah, it's always the Thunder though.
It's always the Thunder. It's always the Thunder. It's like the Clippers will lose a game and somebody be like, oh, you know who has your draft pick this year? But focusing on the now, like they still have I think they have a great team. Like you said, you worry about the health. Hopefully they get their front court healthy and you can see what the actual team looks like because the prospect of your team is like the potential of the team looking forward is like that's a very, very tough defensive team. If you have Chet healthy, you have iHeart healthy, and you have all those perimeter defenders. And then on the offensive side, you have Shai, you have Jalen Williams, all these other players. So
and Chet.
Yep, and Chet.
And I also like what I want to say too. Like I'm talking about the pick and roll. Like they didn't have Chet the whole time.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like maybe they didn't have things to go to because Chet was out. So like that's why I'm not being overly critical. It's like you lost one of your best players. You're one of your best offensive weapons. Your rim protector. So you're probably gonna run into a little bit of problems offensively today. So that for me, it's just kind of like, all right, well, what is Mark gonna do to prepare them if this happens again?
True. Good game though. It ended up being I thought it was turned out to be like a snoozer, but ended up being a great game in the fourth. So.